Today, we're going to talk about some of the craziness that is going on within the Pokemon market and more specifically how this relates to sports cards and why people need to be very careful, very selective with what it is they are buying, especially when it comes to modern cards. Some of the things that are happening within the Pokemon market, in particular with this felt hat Pikachu, this Van Gogh Pikachu, which I'll get to in a second, is honestly insane. The market cap for this card is insane, and I think it speaks to some of these pitfalls that people make in 2025 when it comes to collecting cards. I'll talk you through this in a bit more detail. The reason why it's front of mind is that I talked about it very briefly on the Sports Card Professor's channel. I went on there, he interviewed me for about 30 minutes. I'm not sure when the video is going to drop. We recorded it, 2 or 3 days ago, but it was top of mind because I tied into what we're seeing here with this Pokemon card into things like LeBron Prism Gold, and I'll clarify my thoughts on that in a second. But fundamentally, it's one of those ones that's left me scratching my head for quite a long time. Now, we're going to reference Card Ladder in this particular video, specifically their market cap analysis they do for cards that feed into their platform. And what you can see here now is that the Michael Jordan rookie card in a PSA 10 is fundamentally the card with the highest market cap in or recorded within their platform. You can see here it has a market cap of 110 million. And the average value of these cards is currently at 12,000. Now, what is honestly insane to me, the numbers actually come down a little bit, but what is insane to me is the market cap for this Pikachu card over here. And you'll understand what I mean by insanity in a second. It has a market cap of $83 million, and the card is currently valued at $1.9 thousand in a PSA 10. The reason why this is insane is because this price has basically gone up and up and up over the last couple of weeks. And it's one of those cards that has an insane pop count. People are going to see a card in a PSA 10 and expect, a few thousand at most. But unfortunately, what we've seen in particular with the modern hobby is that's not the case. Those numbers are a lot smaller than what they actually are. And what you're seeing over here is the market population for a PSA 10 is 43,000 cards. There are 43,000 cards of these out and about in the world within a PSA 10. And you have people paying $2,000 for one of these things. And upwards of, 5 or 6 days ago, this card was over $2,000. I think it got up to $2,500 if I remember correctly. It's obviously coming down now, as you can sort of see. But this is insane to me. Over the course of September, it went from strength to strength, and it didn't really make sense why to me. You've essentially got, 43,000 of these bloody things out there. Is it actually that scarce? And what you've sort of seen in Pokemon is a lot of people have come out and placed value in this, right? They've used it as a store of value, right? Similar to crypto in the sense that they'll throw their money there and they think this money is going to come back. But I just don't understand how there's going to be 43,000 people out there that are going to be willing to pay $2,000 or more for this thing. Like, if all these things were to enter the market at the same time, and obviously that's not going to happen, this price is going to tank, in my personal opinion. And I think people fall into this fallacy of seeing stuff like this and think, well, you know what? This is a tangible thing for me to invest my money in. But in reality, there's 43,000 of these things. Like, make it make sense, someone, please. Like, what am I misunderstanding here? Yes, Pokemon is a huge IP. This card is a nice looking card. It's something different from the Pokemon company. I can see why it's collectible. And just quickly, if I remember correctly, these were handed out at the Louvre, if I remember correctly, maybe at the Pokemon store, whatever it was, they were handed out. People got them. They weren't in packs. They were things that people actively chased. They've done something different. I think the card looks awesome. It looks like a piece of art, but that doesn't change the fact there's 43,000 of them out there. And like you can sort of see here, I believe the price change, I think this is the year-on-year growth, is $900. So it's grown by $900 year-on-year. It's essentially doubled in price. But it just makes no sense to me. And the fact that you've got people out there willing to throw money at this when there is that many out there is just crazy. And obviously I'm repeating myself now, but people see this and they think, you know what, this is a great store of value. And that's what I sort of talked to in my video with Sports Card Professor. But what makes me really nervous with stuff like this are things that I've talked about in the past, in particular with modern sports cards. And we use LeBron as an example in the past. I again quickly reference it in the video that I just mentioned. And the reason why it's important is that, Prism's been around since 2012. It's now 2025. So what, there's been 13, 14, releases of that set. If you go back to the very first set, there's a gold Prism, right? And I use gold Prism because people will see a gold Prism and think, you know what, it's out of 10. Let's go ahead and chase it. It's going to be worth money long term. But what happens is for someone like LeBron is that he's in every year of Prism, right? So at a minimum, across the 14 years of Prism or 15 years, whatever it's been, there's now at least 14 or 15 cards out of 10. So you've got now 150 gold Prism cards for LeBron in that population. And people go ahead and treat every single one of those years releases as exactly the same, but in reality, they're not. When you've got that many years I don't think they're all going to carry the same weight and same value long term. Obviously, certain sets are going to mean more, like first year sets and the like, championship winning seasons, but people go ahead and treat those all as the same. And what sort of makes things even worse is that, year on year, you don't just have now golds out of 10, you have black golds, which are out of 8 sometimes. You have gold vinyls, which are sometimes out of 5. You've got all these other, parallels less than 10 that keep getting added year on year. And, what you would then have, instead of just out of 10 every single year across the 15 years being 150, you potentially now have cards out of 10 or less being over 1,000 for LeBron just from that one set of Prism. And people don't think about that when they go ahead and throw crazy money at it. You need to stop back and think, is there enough people out there that want one of those things and want to pay top dollar long term? And if they do, are they going to pay the same amount of money for a 15th year Prism card for LeBron or a second, third year? That stuff needs to be thought about. And I don't think enough people in this space are thinking about it. And when I've talked about this before, I've done, live streams with people in the past and talked about this in depth, right? I'm going to be pretty light. I'm not going to put anything on screen. I might put some of those other videos as reference. What people also fail to realize is that you don't just have Prism, right? You've now got Prism Black, you've got Select, you've got Mosaic, you've got Spectra, you've got all these other sets that are meant to be competing with Prism, but not be competing with Prism. And they too have a shitload of cards out of 10 or less. So the population for a player going from, only having, half a dozen cards out of 10 or less now have probably hundreds, if not thousands. So the population is out of 1,000, out of 2,000, out of 5,000, out of 10,000 cards out of 10 or less. That stuff needs to be thought about. And I bucket it the same as what we're seeing here with this Pokemon card, where people are not thinking about that. They're not thinking, are all these things created equal? Now, obviously, in this particular instance, they are the exact same card. They're all out of PSA 10. There are 43,000 of them. That's very unique and very specific. Those are, in fact, the same card. And obviously, with sports cards, you have different images year on year. You have, things like championship winning seasons. You have record breaking seasons and the like. That stuff is going to carry some weight and mean why somebody goes ahead and pays more for it. But fundamentally, you've got cards out of 10 or less for LeBron that are in the tens of thousands now across every single set that he's had. So factor that in when you're going ahead and buying these cards. I talk about that a lot. It's how I approach things when I'm buying for my collection. I think through these things. I very much like to try and buy first year sets where I can, or the first time a player, has had a card in a particular set, or something along those lines. Do stuff like that to sort of differentiate your collection and think about, what are the things that a collector actually wants to own? That's one of those things that I just think about. And, it sort of goes one step beyond that in terms of what I also like to do. I've given examples in the past about, everybody wants to collect, first year LeBron rookie card. So they can't get that. So they go to second year. So you got this LeBron rookie card sitting there in the middle and they go for a second year. And then they go for a third year, fourth year card, or they'll try a different set, or they'll go for, an autograph, or they'll just try and deviate away from what it is they actually want because they can't afford the thing they actually want. And next thing you know, you've got somebody that's moved, 10 plus deviations away from what it is they're trying to buy. And then they think, well, I'm going to sell this thing because it's going to be worthwhile long term. People are going to chase it and want it long term. When in reality, you only bought that because you couldn't buy this one thing. And obviously, if the market tanks and everybody has to start selling things, are people actually going to want what you bought in the first place when you couldn't buy the thing you wanted to buy? Okay, that was probably a really confusing way to talk about it, but hopefully you guys understood what I meant. So anyway, like the point of this video is not to sort of, talk about this industry as being a bad thing and don't spend money. I'm just saying, be more aware of what it is you're spending your money on. So it is what it is. Share your thoughts down in the comments below. Help me clarify and understand why this Pokemon card is worth the money that it is. And yeah, tell me I'm an idiot down in the comments below if you want as well. That's perfectly fine. So it is what it is. Apologize for the creased shirt today. I didn't realize until I started recording. It is what it is. Thanks for watching, guys, and I'll see you in the next one. Cheers.